Hello everybody and welcome! Today we're going to do something big again, and yes, it's quite, let's say, a remake of one of my classics from a few years back. As the title already suggested, I once did a Hexagon space station by sending everything up in one launch and then putting the pieces together in orbit. And I tried to do this again this time, but what is that? Well, the game kind of glitched and suddenly a reaction wheel was flying outside of the fairing instead of within the fairing, and it was staying outside of the fairing all the way up into, well, orbit, maybe? Almost. Let's see how that turns out. So it survives the atmospheric heating. Still here. Look at that. Flying alongside everything. And now we have some nice stage separation going on. There we go. Goodbye, you big beautiful booster. And the plan is to get all of that packed space station parts up into around 300 kilometers of an orbit. And here we go. Again! Yeah, that didn't turn out as good as I might have liked, and for that attempt I gave the fault to that little reaction wheel thing. So maybe just that glitch of the game caused this thing to explode, but I wheeled around some pieces within the fairing anyways and basically rebuilt the entire thing above the booster, just to make sure that everything works out fine this time. So let's see how that turns out. Okay, once again in orbit. You might have noticed the secondary fairing because I put actually two mammoth engines in there and they were too big for the regular coupler fairing, so yeah, I had to use another fairing, but that's beside the point because now we're going to see once more the glory of these space station parts, and they're flying in unison towards... no, they don't apparently. Again! Yeah, so I'm not sure why, but a lot of times the space station assembly kind of started wiggling and glitching out and pieces dropping away, and I had to redo the entire way how to assemble it onto the launch vehicle about 4 or 5 times. I honestly can't remember now. Would be fun if it had been 6 times, because it's a Hexagon space station. But anyway, this is now the final design, and once again we have stage separation over here. And the second stage is basically the entire thing within the fairing. Yes, here we go. I also used the fairing in such a way that the fairing base is on the top, which I believe makes that thing way more stable than if it were at the bottom and the engine would push against it. I think KSP is weird in that way, and maybe that was the reason why this was finally working. I built all the space station parts around a central column which also contains the fuel, so the second stage and the payload are kind of fused together. So now we're heading towards our apoapse and we're trying to circularize and hoping that nothing breaks off unintentionally. And it actually looks fine, so I started to get the assembly done. Yes, it's now time to do a lot of docking. If you don't like docking in space, then I'm sorry for you, because there's nothing else going on in this video starting from now, except some docking and some weird things happening maybe during that. Anyway, okay, my intention was to attach everything while keeping close to that delivery vehicle, so I wanted everything to be in one place so I don't have to adjust my rendezvous distances and whatever, so this would have made things a lot easier. First I chose one of the nodes to be the primary one, where I wanted to start attaching everything. And you might have already seen that this is not looking the same way as my original space station. Yes, since I've been a bit more experienced than before, and since the 5-meter parts made it a lot easier to get this thing here into orbit than a few years back, I decided to make this thing a double hexagon. Yes, we're going to have a hexagon on the bottom and a hexagon on the top, so this is going to be a stacked space station. Alright, but first of all we have to assemble it, right? So this is going to be some fine-tuning and maneuvering and making sure that the alignments are correct. And there we go, we have another one. This is going to go up top. So the thing I'm trying to do is get the node done, get 2 spokes done, and then get the other nodes onto the spokes. Alright, so far so good. Next spoke incoming. I mean, this actually, I think it looked more epic in my imagination when I actually was doing that than this video maybe can convey. But, you know, looking down at a planet on the clouds, enjoying the vastness of space, and having a huge piece of equipment in orbit is kind of fun. And kind of epic. But yeah. Now, the next piece of equipment is another node, of course. You can see here I have basically built this out of a 5-meter tank and some of those coned tanks, or cone-shaped tanks rather. And yeah, these nodes, they also had a few iterations to get done correctly. Because in my first design, they had some more parts than they have now, and this of course contributed to the entire vehicle gaining about 1700 parts in total. So this here is now completely, well, everything together I think it's a little bit below 1500 parts or 1400 something parts. I can't remember actually, maybe I'll look it up and put some kind of overlay in the video like this. While we have talked about that, the next node is already moving again. And things exploded, so yeah, I reasoned with myself that, well, these centers of masses of all of these things were kind of too far apart or anything, so I decoupled the space station in construction from the delivery vehicle. And that actually made things a lot easier, well, in regards to the wobble thing going on. It made it a lot harder in regards to all of that maneuvering and docking, because KSP is glitchy in that way that once you dock that thing, your orbital speed somehow changes. And yes, you may have already noticed some lighting effects going on, especially at sundown and sunrise. That is due to the newly updated Scatterer mod that now offers some really great dusk and dawn effects. Look at here, we are now approaching dawn, and once again you have this orange-reddish hue, while another spoke is making its way towards the station. And now we are in full sunlight again. Isn't that beautiful? Okay. Next spoke coming in. What I'm trying to do is that I put 3 columns between the top and the bottom ring. So not 6 columns, but 3, so I don't have to dock that much, and I think it also looks better. Anyhow, since 3 of the nodes and spokes were docked together anyway, I decided to move them around in one piece, but then I had to undock them anyway because, yeah, of the way I wanted to dock them to the station, because this was also supposed to be another column. Alright, and here we have basically docking in tandem, so The column is aiming for the node is aiming for the station itself, and we are trying to get this thing docked together in very close succession. So I have to adjust with the column towards the node every time I change direction. But it worked out better than I originally anticipated, to be honest. And things are taking shape really well. Also, another two-node maneuver going on over here. First one is already on its way, the second one, well, node spoke of course, second spoke is already starting its maneuver. There we go, look at that, some tandem flying. Well, you have to coordinate a little bit and be aware of things not colliding with each other, but it actually went more smoothly than I originally anticipated, which is fine. If you have watched the original Hexagon station video, you may have also noticed that I don't use these tugs that I had back then, because I realized just putting a control node or probe core basically inside of these elements made it a lot easier, more balanced, and I could do more at once if I so desired. Also, if you guys are familiar with how the Mir space station or the ISS were built, basically the modules were flying automatically once they were in orbit. So everything was sent up, I think, with a Proton rocket for Mir, and then these modules kind of flow to the rendezvous with the Mir space station by themselves. So yeah, there is real-world precedent for this. Do you see how far that delivery ship is now away from the space station? Well, every time, as I mentioned, I dock something to the space station, the relative velocities of each object in space kind of changed by 6.6 or whatever meters per second. It was really annoying. So since I only had a few elements left, I decided to, well, let's go for it and send everything on their merry way. So this included in some 3D spatial coordination nightmare for my brain, but in the end it worked out fine. You may also see that I have aimed for one of the docking ports not directly but opposite of the node. More on that later once I have detached everything from the delivery stage, which I then will deorbit. Because I don't need it anyway, and it's a very special purpose-built vehicle, although, I mean, you could use it for a cargo ship because all of its docking ports, but I didn't want to, and I just fired up the engines and let it die. Alright, we have a docking port there, we have a docking port over here, we have this spoke heading there and the other one, and this all looks very cool, which you will see later once we have docked this together. This is, yes, fine. We have now, and we are in approach. This almost looks like like alien spaceships attacking a space station, something like that. Yeah, just in my imagination. Sorry about that. Okay, the top ring is finished, and once again we have the incoming modules towards the station, this time with sunset lighting. Sunrise, of course. And now 3 more elements to go, 2 spokes and 1 node, and this is going to be finished. Nice. Yeah, you might have noticed there is some misalignment with one of the nodes down there, but this can be fixed with detaching a little bit and moving it around later on. Okay, penultimate spoke coming in. I mean, the fun thing, it's stable anyways, without even that thing attached, so yeah. And now we have the final cornerstone, the headstone of the bridge, maybe? How? Any architects around there who actually know what I'm talking about? Do I know what I'm talking about? I don't think I know what I'm talking about. Alright. Anyway, the final piece is wiggling into place, and we have a dual Hexagon station ready for refueling operations, because it basically just consists of fuel. The spokes have monopropellant in them, and the rest have liquid fuel and oxidizer. And now we open all the docking ports, we open all solar panels, and this station is now fully operational and ready to go. If you want to dock to a 1400 part behemoth in space, which would reduce your performance anyways, but yeah. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel for more and follow me on my social thingies. The links are in the description. Also, you can watch one of the 2 cool videos shown on the right. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.